about the depression in the community, and I love what you said because we don't embrace it. And when I mean embrace it, like not so much as celebrate, like, yay, you're depressed. But I mean,
Right.
I mean more so embrace it like I want to support you. Like you said, your husband didn't understand it, so it was hard for him to support. Let's bring our VIP in. Hi, Miss Lady.
Hey.
Woo, look, I can't see the belly. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi, baby. Woo, woo. My first youth day, my first youth show.
Okay.
So when is the due date? When is little mama coming?
She is due December 29th, but I have to have a C-section. So this is my third C-section baby. So I'll probably have her the week before. So either the week of probably the week of Christmas. So
yeah. Are you excited?
I am. I'm ready for the relief. I'm so ready.
How does it feel? Girl, I'm sorry. Thank God this is a show that we love on each other. But this one piece of hair is sticking out and it is really getting to me. Thank God we love on each other in this show.
And we can't even see it, but it's bothering you. Like, wait a minute, I think I see it right.
Oh gosh. So the last time you was on my show, I really was blessed and I got a lot of positive feedback because you was teaching us about visions and goals and I want to bring you back for a part 2 for that as well. But you did a post on prenatal depression and I reached out to you and I was like, I've never heard that before. So I don't know how you want to flow with this. So I'm just going to ask you, for the sake of my knowledge, what is prenatal depression?
Okay, so prenatal depression, it's a mood disorder that expecting moms have. Mm-hmm. So it's like postpartum depression, but it's actually during you carrying the baby. So after is postpartum, but we don't hear a lot of insight on prenatal depression because we often hear, oh, it's just hormones, it's just pregnancy hormones, they'll pass. But there is actually a mood disorder called perinatal depression. And I actually experienced it in my third pregnancy, which is this one. And I had postpartum depression in my second pregnancy.
So let me ask you this. Let me jump in. So with the prenatal depression, you did not experience this with your first child?
No.
And your second child, you experienced post?
Yes.
Now that you're on your third pregnancy, you're identifying that you are experiencing prenatal.
Yes.
Wow. Is it like triggers or like what helps a person identify that they are experiencing prenatal depression?
Well, I've had postpartum depression. So most moms or women who have had postpartum depression or depression runs in their family, they're usually more prone to having prenatal depression. So basically, I was having symptoms and mine came from really like changes that was taking place in my body. So this pregnancy was different from the last one. Like this pregnancy, I was not able to eat. And that was like decreasing my energy levels where I couldn't perform like daily tasks. And, it just made me like really sad and I had anxiety and I was just tired all the time. Wow. And so I finally was like, wait, something's like wrong here. Like this can't really just be pregnancy hormones. And so I just started doing a lot of research on it and I realized that I was dealing with perinatal depression and I started finding like natural ways to kind of come out of it.
Oh, good. Now, before we get into the ways, because I kind of want to just dig a little deeper on identifying it, because like you said, some people will credit it or discount it as thinking you're just hormonal or, just you're going through this. Would you say to identify it, would you add age as a factor, or what is like the most identification that you can say will contribute? I know you mentioned family history. Is there anything else that you would say?
Well, usually it happens a lot in first time moms. Also like moms 30 and under, like young moms. And then also women of color are at higher risk to have perinatal depression.
Really?
Yes. We are
Wow.
at higher risk. So I was doing like extensive research on it, and I saw that wow, it's such a need in our communities to educate more women, because we think that, oh, it's just pregnancy hormones, it's going to go away. But especially first time moms, they don't really know how to cope with that. So
Yeah.
it can get really bad to where you need therapy, you need to be medicated, just from that perinatal depression. But we have it, it's more, it's higher risk in urban communities
Mhm.
because of the culture stigma that we have.
Yeah.
And I experienced it myself with postpartum and perinatal depression, because in our culture as women of color, we're supposed to be strong, and, we're supposed to birth babies. And, oftentimes our voices are not heard when we're saying that we're experiencing these type of mental health challenges,
Yes.
because mental health is not like a big major factor in our
In our
communities.
community. One time, Taraji Henson was doing an interview, and she said, "I hate that word that been attached to us as Black women. I'm a strong Black woman." She said, "You
Mm-hmm.
don't see white women say I'm a strong white woman. I'm a strong Asian woman. It's only in the Black." And with us, and I feel like it's because we had to be strong because we were the ones taking care of the master's children. We were the
Mm-hmm.
one taking care of the master's home. We were the one when our husbands came in from being beaten, tried to, as a slave, had to be that woman to make sure, baby, you got it. So they had to stroke their ego, had to do all that. And I believe
Mm-hmm.
it carried throughout generations till we never were able to disattach to
Connect
that
from
word.
it.
Yeah, disconnect the visualization of what strength is. It's like
Yes.
we don't know how to define it to
Right.
where the strength is a badge of honor. Because it is a badge of honor to say you're a strong
Mm-hmm.
person, but that does not negate if you feeling weak one day, it doesn't take away your strength. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. And
I
strength isn't asking for help. Like, it takes a
exactly.
strong person to say, hey, I'm dealing with this, and I don't know how to cope with it, and I need help. But I
Yeah.
do agree. I feel like it's very generational in our culture. And I actually did like, with MD studies, that's one of the major things is our lack of support. And that's why it's so big in our communities, because we're afraid to tell people that we're dealing with depression.
Mm,
So it just continues on in our communities. And I experienced it, like, because at first my husband didn't understand it, because he's never seen me deal with prenatal depression. My
mm,
last baby, I was not working from home, so I was always on the move. I had morning sickness, but he never saw it because I was always at work.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really had to break it down to him. And when he saw the changes I was going through, where my body was so weak where I couldn't get up and I
Wow.
couldn't do anything, then he started to be more understanding and, kind of fill in the gaps and help me with my tasks that I
Yeah.
needed to carry out.
Yeah. And you said something about the depression in the community, and I love what you said because we don't embrace it. And when I mean embrace it, like not so much as celebrate, like, yay, you're
Hmm.
depressed. But I mean,
Right.
I mean more so embrace it like I want to support you. Like you said, your husband didn't understand it. So it was hard for him to support you because that understanding was there. And I feel like it bleeds, which it shouldn't, but it
Hmm.
bleeds into the church. It's like the
Yes.
church won't, I know depression, that's a demon. Okay, we'll go into that later. I do believe, now don't get me wrong, I do believe there are evil spirits that need to be
Hmm.
cast out. But then I
Hmm.
also believe there are mental issues that need to be healed. And
Yes.
and and in the healing process is therapeutic. Pastor Brian, he used to say all the time, I can have the Holy Ghost and a therapist. So,
Right.
it's like we have to understand it so we'll know how to support it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I am a woman of strong faith.
Hmm.
But I do believe in that. Like, I believe God put people here on this earth to help us to get through
Yes.
these type of situations. I also know, in the Garden of Gethsemane, that Jesus dealt with
There
depression,
you
and we
go. Yeah,
fail to address that as a church.
that's
We
right.
cannot pray everything away. Like, we have to, and that's what I did when I found natural ways to cope. I prayed that God give me divine wisdom on what to do,
Yes.
and I took the necessary steps. I didn't feel ashamed as a Christian. Oh, I'm a Christian, I shouldn't be, dealing with depression.
Exactly, exactly. And I want us to, so we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we talked about how to identify it. Now we're gonna talk about, and I love what you said, natural ways to deal with, because with Wellness Wednesday, we all about holistic. Right. So we're back with my VIP, Miss Karima. We're talking about prenatal depression for those who just joined in, and also for those who will be watching our replay. We also mentioned so far of ways to identify it. She mentioned that it's sometimes when your mood changes, and is you can't always say, well, it's because of hormonal hormones. If it's something that's taking you especially to the extreme of things, then it's good to seek out help therapy, so you can identify, is it hormone or am I being depressed? So she brought a great point out. So right now we're going to go into ways we can naturally overcome that.
Yes.
So lead us into these natural ways.
Well, the first way, starts with a mindset shift. So I didn't suppress how I was feeling. I didn't say, oh, it's just hormones, it'll pass. I actually, set in what I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
and I prayed and I used wisdom and I did research, and I saw that that's what I was dealing with, and I acknowledged that and I took the steps to kind of work through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing that I did. The
Okay.
second thing that I did was I communicated that to my spouse. So if you have a spouse, a support system of any kind, communicate to them and let them know what's going on with you. Even if you feel like they're not going to understand,
Mm-hmm.
it, like I said, if it's a support system, then there are medical facts to studies to back this
Mm-hmm.
perinatal depression. So don't be afraid to reach out to someone. And I'm also going to share some resources, the maternal mental health support line and postpartum support line for those individuals who don't have a support system and need to speak to someone.
Good job. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
And the third thing that I did was, I like I do believe that the things we put in our body does affect our mental
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
So I reached out to one of my friends, which I'm part of her God class group. Her name is Casey. She's a mother of six and she's a doula. So
Mm-hmm.
what she did was she told me to kind of look at my sleep patterns and look at the food I was intaking, because I was plant based for like 2 years. And when
Mm-hmm.
I got pregnant, I had to kind of switch over to like lean meats,
Mm-hmm.
and so she kind of told me to observe that. So
Yeah.
that was like a physical step that I took. And I did see that I wasn't intaking as many vegetables as I was when I was plant based. I was consuming too much protein, too much meat. And so I started to kind of track my meals,
Mm.
and also just like have smoothies here or there. And I did see that that actually increased my energy levels.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Love it.
And the fourth thing I did, I actually journaled prayers and confessions for emotional and mental healing.
Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to choose happiness over depression. Um, I did prayer meditation. There's a prayer meditation for perinatal and postnatal moms, called The Healing Space. She has a podcast, and
Mm.
it's a Christian meditation for moms, and it's actually very soothing. So
Wow.
I did that, and when she didn't have things posted on her podcast, I would
Mm.
just listen to like soothing music and
Yeah.
look up different essential oils, and things I could put in my body and on my body that would kind of promote, peace and
Yeah.
healing and calming me down.
Yes, yes, yes. Which, by the way, for some of those who are too spooky, that is biblical, because remember the alabaster box, that was expensive oil. And remember when Jesus, what was that? The spikenard oil. So oils is a healing method that is actually biblical. You get the right oil. I don't take it to
Right.
no voodoo priestess or nothing like that.
And vitamins too, that's what people don't realize. Like, if you are intaking the proper nourishment from vegetables and fruits, that's all that is in vitamins,
Yeah,
and the same in oils, that's coming from natural plants and different things like that. And that's all they had in the biblical times. They didn't have doctors
exactly.
and all this technology like
Exactly.
we do.
Exactly. Exactly. Very good. Very
So
good.
I did that, and then when my energy levels increased, I went outside. So I got some natural vitamin D,
Hmm.
and going outside, feeling the breeze, getting air, because I work from home, so I'm in the house a lot.
Right.
So that helped me, as well. So those are the 6 things that I did to kind of cope with it, and it did help me. Now if it gets extreme and severe, I would encourage any expecting mom to, prenatal or postpartum, if you've had a baby, to let your doctor know what's going on, because I did a survey myself, a research of women of color, and a lot of them, they don't even get surveyed until the postpartum or
Wow.
perinatal is severe. So
Wow.
at that point, it's like damage control, where you're thinking you need
Yeah.
therapy or medicine.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask your doctors questions, after you have your baby or while you're expecting.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. What I wish I would have done was got all that information so I could. Someone is watching this and it's a replay and everything you said, they pause and they rewind and they were like, I just want to ask her one more question. Don't you have a channel just for this, right?
I do. So at the end of the live, I'm going to post the resources for maternal moms, perinatal, and postpartum. Also, the link to my YouTube channel, which is Moms Need to Be Well.
Mm-hmm.
And this YouTube channel is actually linked to a book that I'm going to be releasing. It's a perinatal and postpartum awareness book.
Yeah.
And it basically is going to go through like the physical and mental health challenges that we as women of color, so it's specifically for women of color,
Mm-hmm.
that we battle. And I'm going to be sharing my journey and pretty much getting more into it about, breastfeeding, because that's a stigma in our communities where we feel like we have to breastfeed. Um, Grieving child loss, a lot
Yeah.
of moms who are grieving child loss, there it can be separate, postpartum and the grieving period.
Wow.
And also childbirth trauma, because that can cause perinatal depression and PTSD
Yeah.
for moms. So
Yeah.
that's just to name a few. So I'm going to be discussing that on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be providing a resource through my book that I'll be releasing.
Yeah.
And definitely stay in contact with me, because this is so needed in our community.
Yes, it
It's going
is.
to be a great gift for expecting moms, new moms, and even dads. So you can, it's going to let you into the mindset of a woman. So
Yes.
a
Yeah.
pregnant woman. So you know what's going on.
So you want me like, oh,
Right. Because that is the biggest issue we have, is just that the tools, the resources, and the knowledge in our communities, we don't have enough of that. We
yes.
do depend a lot on doctors, and we have to get to a point where, we're self-sufficient, and we have that knowledge and that information, so we know what questions to ask when we're going into
Right.
our OBGYN.
That's right. That's right. I love it.